Good morning, dear students. Let us discuss about the lymphatic system part 2. Part 1 of the lymphatic system, we discussed the introductory part of the lymphatic system. What is lymph? What are the functions of lymphatic system? And about the lymph capillaries, lymphatic vessels. We discussed mainly about the thoracic duct, which is the largest lymphatic duct in the body. And we also discussed about right lymphatic duct, and we discussed about the primary and secondary organs of the lymphatic system, and about the secondary lymphoid organ, the lymph node, we discussed in detail in the lymphatic system part 1. Now we'll continue our lecture of the lymphatic system, and we will discuss about lymphoid organs, that is the secondary lymphoid organ. Number 1, lymph node we discussed in the previous class. Now spleen is also a lymphoid organ. It is the largest lymphoid organ in the body. Remember, spleen is the largest lymphoid organ in the body. Where is the location of spleen? It is located deep in the left hypochondrium of the abdominal cavity. So abdominal cavity has been divided into various quadrants. So here exactly this is left hypochondrium. So it is located in the left hypochondrium of the abdominal cavity between the fundus of stomach and the diaphragm. So we can see here this is fundus of the stomach, and here you will be having the diaphragm. So between the diaphragm and fundus of stomach you see the location of the so-called spleen. Now it is purplish and varies in size in different individuals. As you can see in this diagram, it is purplish and it varies in size in different individuals, but usually it is of the size of a closed fist of that individual. So that you should remember. So in this paragraph we discussed about the location of the spleen, that it is located in the left hypochondric region between the diaphragm and the fundus of the stomach. And the color of the spleen is, it is purplish in color, and it varies in size in different individuals. Usually it is of the size of a closed fist of that individual, that you should remember. Now coming to the structure of the spleen, we'll discuss about the microscopic structure of the spleen. It consists of red pulp and the white pulp. The spleen is thus represents hemolymph node in the human body. So it is also regarded as hemolymph node in the human body. So what is this white pulp and the red pulp? What it consists of? Now if you see under microscope, the white pulp is a lymphatic tissue sheath that surrounds the central artery. Now where is the central artery over here? So here we can make out central artery. So this central artery, it is surrounded by white pulp. White pulp usually it contains WBCs. So that's why it is known as white pulp. Now this periarterial lymphatic tissue sheath. Periarterial means one which is surrounding the central artery, that is called periarterial lymphatic sheath, possess nodule which is known as splenic nodule or Malpighian corpuscle. So central artery in the splenic nodule. So this periarterial lymphatic sheath, it possesses nodule with or without centers. So these nodules are known as the splenic nodules or the Malpighian corpuscles. So that is about the white pulp of the spleen. Now the red pulp consists of network of anastomosing splenic cords, which are known as the cords of Billroth. So you can make out here, this is the red pulp in the spleen. So it consists of network of anastomosing splenic cords, which are known as the cords of Billroth. The splenic cords, they are made up of lymphocytes, both the B and T lymphocytes, and also macrophages and plasma cells. So this you should remember. The spaces between the cords, which are nothing but the splenic cords, are occupied by blood sinusoids. So red pulp contains the splenic cords, right? The spaces between the cords are occupied by blood sinusoids. So the spleen is covered by a connective tissue capsule. So we can see here the entire spleen, it is covered by a connective tissue capsule which sends trabeculae within the substance of the organ, where they are repeatedly divided to form the network. So this capsule, it sends trabeculae within the substance of the spleen, where they divide repeatedly to form the network. Now the blood carried antigens are removed in the spleen. So the blood-borne antigens or blood carried antigens are removed in the spleen. Now what are the functions of spleen? It filters the blood from the antigens and microorganisms. So it filters blood from antigens and microorganisms, number one. Number two, it brings immunological response against the antigens circulating in the blood. So it evokes or it brings immunological response against the antigens circulating in the blood, and it produces B and T lymphocytes. It removes old and abnormal RBCs. Number fifth, it removes bacteria by phagocytosis. And number sixth, it stores the blood. Number seven, it forms blood cells during fetal life. So these are the functions of spleen, which is very, very important. So this is about spleen. The spleen is the largest lymphoid organ in the body, right? So you should remember what are the histological features of the spleen and what are the functions of the spleen. Coming to the clinical correlation which is related to the spleen, splenomegaly, which is nothing but enlargement of the spleen. It is usually secondary to other conditions. So this is the normal spleen, and we can see here the enlargement of the spleen. So in which condition? The conditions like the infections, circulatory disorders, blood diseases, and malignant neoplasms, like abnormal growth of the tissue. So that may lead to enlargement of the spleen. Now spleen may be infected by blood carried microbes, example malaria and typhoid fever. Circulatory disorders like portal obstruction due to cirrhosis of liver. The liver cirrhosis is nothing but degeneration of the liver cells, leads to congestion of the blood in spleen. In blood diseases like chronic myeloid leukemia, the spleen enlarges to extra workload associated with removing abnormal blood cells. Then malignant neoplasms, example the lymphomas, which is a cancer, may cause metastatic tumors in spleen. Metastasis is nothing but the secondary malignant growth. Okay, so these are the conditions where you see the enlargement of the spleen. Let us discuss about the primary lymphoid organs. What are the primary lymphoid organs? The thymus and bone marrow. These are the primary lymphoid organs. So let us discuss about thymus in detail. Thymus is an asymmetrical bilobed organ. We can see here, this is the location of thymus. It is asymmetrical bilobed organ. It has two lobes, so that is why it is known as bilobe, and the lobes are asymmetrical. Bilobed organ or gland located in the superior mediastinum of the thoracic cavity. So this is the superior mediastinum. So it is located in the superior mediastinum of the thoracic cavity. Actually, mediastinum is a space between the two lungs. So it is located in the superior mediastinum behind the manubrium sterni. The sternum is been removed, the breastbone. So behind the manubrium sterni, you found this thymus. It extends upwards into the root of the neck. The thymus is devoid of lymph capillaries and lymphoid nodules, right? So it is devoid of lymph capillaries and lymphoid nodules, the thymus. The thymus is central lymphoid organ and essential for the development of lymphoid organs. So it is basically the function of the thymus that it is responsible for the development of other lymphoid organs. What are the other lymphoid organs? Like we have lymph node, spleen, tonsil, these are all the lymphoid organs. So it is large and well developed in fetus. In fetal life, it is large and well developed, and in early childhood also it is large and well developed. It attains its peak development at puberty, and thereafter it starts involuting and it is replaced by fibrofatty tissue. Thereafter it starts degenerating and it is replaced by fibrofatty tissue. So it weighs about 12 to 15 grams at birth and 30 to 40 grams at puberty and 10 to 15 grams at 60 years. So this you have to remember, the weight of the thymus at different ages of life. At birth 12 to 15, at puberty 30 to 40, and again it diminishes in old age, that is 10 to 15 grams by 60 years. Now coming to the structure of the thymus. Thymus consists of supporting framework made by epithelial reticular cells and parenchymal cells. Namely, we have lymphocytes and macrophages in the thymus. Thus, the thymus contains following three main types of cells. Epitheliocytes, which are the thymic epithelial cells. Then we have lymphocytes and macrophages. These are the three main cells which are present in the thymus. Epitheliocytes, lymphocytes and macrophages. Now thymus has dual origin. Its epitheliocytes, which are nothing but epithelial reticular cells, they arise from endoderm of the third pharyngeal pouch. It is a germ layer, endoderm of the third pharyngeal pouch, whereas its lymphocytes and macrophages, they originate from mesoderm. So dear students, this is actually I'm giving you extra information about the development of the thymus. I don't think that for you people they'll ask you in the final examination regarding the development, but I'm giving you extra point just to remember, so that it has dual origin. Epitheliocytes arise from endoderm of the third pharyngeal pouch, whereas its lymphocytes and macrophages arise from mesoderm. Now each lobe of the thymus is divided into incomplete lobules. So we can see here, each lobe of the thymus is divided into incomplete lobules. Each lobule has a darkly stained cortex and at the periphery. So this is the cortex of one lobule, which is darkly stained at the periphery, and a lightly stained medulla in the center. So this is actually the medulla, which is in the center. This is medulla in the center, and darkly stained cortex you can make out here in this histological structure of the thymus. And this is lightly stained medulla. The cortex is densely packed with lymphocytes, also known as the thymocytes. So the cortex of the thymic lobule, it contains lymphocytes or thymocytes. The outer part of the cortex contains immature large lymphocytes. This outer part of the cortex, it contains immature large lymphocytes which divide by mitosis to produce small T lymphocytes. So these large lymphocytes, they divide by mitosis to produce small T lymphocytes which are pushed into the deep cortex. So these small T lymphocytes, they are pushed into the deep cortex. The epitheliocytes help in maturation of T lymphocytes through the hormone known as thymosin. So the epitheliocytes, they help in the maturation of T lymphocytes through a hormone known as thymosin, which is secreted by these cells. Immunocompetent T cells. Immunocompetent means having normal immune response. These cells leave the thymus and through circulation reach the peripheral lymphoid tissue. The medulla consists of mainly epitheliocytes and few lymphocytes. So the medulla of the thymus contains epitheliocytes and few lymphocytes. The most important feature of the medulla of the thymus is the presence of Husserl's corpuscles. So we can make out here a thymic corpuscle, also known as the Husserl corpuscle. So this is the important feature of the thymus, which these Husserl's corpuscles are found in the medulla of the thymus. So these are made up of concentrically arranged flattened cells, so which are the degenerating epitheliocytes. So concentrically arranged flattened cells, these cells are nothing but the degenerating epitheliocytes. The center of the corpuscle contains homogeneous hyaline material. So this is the center of the Husserl's corpuscle, which contains hyaline transparent material produced by degenerating cells of the corpuscle. Now, what are the functions of thymus? The thymus is the site of production of T lymphocytes. So it produces T lymphocyte. It receives immunologically incompetent stem cells from the bone marrow, so which do not show immune response. Those cells are known as immunologically incompetent stem cells. So these they are taken up by the thymus from the bone marrow. In the thymus, these cells divide and mature into the T lymphocytes, where they become immunocompetent. The thymus secretes a hormone called thymosin. This is important, we discussed in the previous slide. It supports the activity of the T lymphocytes throughout the production of T lymphocytes. Is most prolific in youth. An essential requisite for the development of protective immune function. That is the function of T lymphocytes. Now, what are the clinical correlations associated with the thymus? Enlargement of the thymus associated with some autoimmune diseases. Example, thyrotoxicosis, which is nothing but excess thyroid hormone in the body. That is known as thyrotoxicosis. Then Addison's disease. It is a disorder of the adrenal gland. So does not produce enough hormones. So that is Addison's disease. So the adrenal gland does not produce enough hormones. That leads to a condition which is known as Addison's disease. And myasthenia gravis. Myasthenia gravis is nothing but weakness and rapid fatigue of the skeletal muscles or any muscles in the body. That is myasthenia gravis. So autoimmune conditions are those in which the immune system treats normal body cells or secretions as antigens and destroy them. So this is about the thymus. Next we will move on to the bone marrow. Let us discuss about the bone marrow. It is a primary lymphoid organ. The thymus and bone marrow, they consider as the primary lymphoid organs. The bone marrow is a soft, loose vascular tissue consisting of delicate network of reticular fibers. You can see here, this is all the red bone marrow. So which consists of various types of cells. It is the main site of hemopoiesis, production of blood cells. The red bone marrow is the main site of hemopoiesis, which is nothing but production of blood cells. It is present in the medullary cavity of long bones and in the cavities of the spongy bone. So medullary cavity of the long bone and also in the spongy bone, you see in the presence of red bone marrow or the bone marrow. What are the types of bone marrow? Number 1, we have red bone marrow. Number 2, yellow bone marrow. Red bone marrow, it is vascular and appears red in color due to the presence of red blood cells. So we can make out here, this is red bone marrow. It appears red in color due to the presence of red blood cells. It consists of network of fine reticular fibers containing blood forming cells. What is this yellow bone marrow? As the age advances, the marrow in the medullary cavity of long bones gradually replaced by yellow bone marrow. So we can see here, this is yellow bone marrow. So the red bone marrow, as the age advances, it is replaced by yellow bone marrow. So what it consists of? It mainly consists of adipose tissue. The yellow bone marrow, it consists of adipose tissue. However, few hemopoietic elements may be found in it. Under certain conditions such as severe bleeding or hypoxia, decreased amount of oxygen. So under conditions like bleeding and severe hypoxia, yellow bone marrow converts back into red bone marrow and it produces blood cells. So with this we have finished the lymphatic system. We discussed in detail about the primary lymphoid organs and also about the secondary lymphoid organs. And in part 1 we discussed about the functions of the lymphatic system and about the lymph capillaries and lymphatic vessels. The lymphatic ducts, we discussed in detail about the thoracic duct and also the right lymphatic duct. So from examination point of view, so you will get short notes from the lymphatic system. So they may ask you spleen, histology of the spleen or the lymph node or the thymus, and they may ask you what are the primary and secondary lymphoid organs. So the question will be like, name the primary and secondary lymphoid organs. Okay, so these are all the things which you have to remember. Thank you very much.